Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you are listening to us. If you're listening to us live, then thank you very much for joining us straight away after that interesting game, shall we say. And we are going to be digesting it straight after the final whistle. It's 6:30 on a Sunday night. And somebody's having a bit of a meltdown with their phone. I think that's Merv. Docked points for Merv there. Right, so we've got massive feedback, Merv. You might need to switch your camera or something like that. I've had to mute Merv. I don't like doing that, but I normally save that for my team at work. But he seems to be having a few technical problems. But welcome to the post-match pubcast. Let's get the running order in straight. And first and foremost, we need to discuss the beverages that are on at the virtual pub. So, Mark, what's your tipple? What are you drinking tonight, mate?
Nice little Saint-Emilion, mate.
Oh, look at you, Andrew, our friend, our fellow Gooner. He'd be absolutely
Game of Thrones
delighted.
glass. He
goblet,
would, yes.
No
a goblet, yes.
A
My
goblet.
Tyrion Lannister glass, yes.
Indeed, you drink and you know things, and the things that you know are that Arsenal can't actually defend a lead.
Yes,
apparently.
well, seemingly so. Yes. Sorry, it's like having a conversation with a Dalek.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I like to swallow robots in my spare time. But let's bring our other guest in. We did have Merv with us, but I think he's got some technical difficulties. So he's going to join us in a minute. But Olaf, what are you drinking tonight, sir? Before we have to talk about Arsenal.
Tanqueray Civil gin with some tonic. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, we've gone all posh. I'm just going for a standard Kronenberg here, and I've got the old keg penciled in for a Heineken after that. So,
are you in the middle of cooking dinner, Chris? You got your
I
Batman.
am. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Very
nice.
Are we completely avoiding the fact that there was a football match on tonight because we're all a little bit too worried? Merv, I think you've joined us, and I think you're alive and not a Dalek. Can you say hello?
Hello.
He's with us. Brilliant. Technical difficulties over. Let's start talking football, shall we? So, okay. Merv, first and foremost, what you're drinking, and secondly, talk to me about the lineup and were you happy with the decisions that Arteta made with the changes that come from the Aston Villa game?
Well, first things first, it's a home game, so it's Camden Hells. Secondly, I was actually. I was quite excited at the chance to see Ødegaard, Smith Rowe and Saka in the same team. I was a bit concerned that it makes a bit lightweight, but it would be one of those almost Wenger ball type games where we were doing lots of passing, lots of short passing, and maybe Leeds were going to be a bit more physical, need a lot more pressing and stuff. But overall, I thought that it was right time to bring Aubameyang back as the main central striker. Lacazette's been doing fine. So no, I wasn't disappointed with it at all. I suppose the change at the back with Luiz coming back in possibly was a good partner for Gabriel. Although I suppose I was expecting to see Holding again because recently he
plays all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how poor he is or great he is, he just plays. So anyway, I'm going to leave my holding biases to one side because Mark will very much tell me off. And let's bring in Mark. Just talk to me, mate, about the first sort of 10 minutes because I've got to be honest with you. I watched that first 10 minutes and thought, where was this last weekend against Aston Villa? Because it was fast, it was quick, we were incisive, we were releasing the ball quicker, I felt.
Yeah, well, we've done. I mean, if you look back at two previous games, I think it might have been Palace at home. We started exactly the same as we did today. Really good, fast start. But once we didn't get anywhere with it, we dropped off quite badly. And then that game just petered out. Then you look at the Wolves game where we did it, and we actually did it for the whole 45 minutes, which was similar to how we ended up today. So today was good. It was a great start. It was nice and fast. Got in amongst them. You have to press them, and I think it's exactly the thing to do when you've got the players that we had. So as Merv said, I was really looking forward to seeing the interplay that there was going to be between Ødegaard and Saka and Smith Rowe, and then with Aubameyang playing centre forward. I was really looking forward to that, and I think it did. It came across. It worked really well, and I think Saka is so key to this because their defence was just completely terrified of him. Anytime he got the ball and he got anywhere near their box, they were just so scared of going near him. And obviously we'll talk about the incidents, I'm sure, in a minute. But that just then allows the other guys to play as well. So no, I thought it was a good lineup. Yeah, admittedly, the holding for Luiz it was interesting. Is that just simply resting Holding because he's played a hell of a lot of games lately, or was it tactical because Luiz is a better passer than Holding? Who knows? It's difficult to say.
Yeah, that was my kind of gut feel, is that I wonder if Arteta wanted better ball distributors at the back, particularly with the way that Leeds play. So transitioning from back to front as quickly as we could and accuracy. Now, Holding is a brilliant penalty box defender. Whip balls in, he's going to nod them away. If anything's sort of close control inside the box, he's normally positionally okay. And so if we need to, Holding is that type of player that's going to be useful. But if Leeds are going to transition on us quickly, front to back, and if we're going to then transition on them in response to that kind of basketball match, which it seemed like it was at times, because that's the style they played, I got the feeling that Arteta probably thought, actually, do you know what? Somebody like Luiz, somebody like Gabriel, who can move the ball out of defence and pass quickly, is going to have that sort of impact. But Olaf, so we, as Mark said, it's all about having those pockets in which we're really, really good, but we haven't often made the advantage stick. But we did today, didn't we? And Aubameyang off the mark very quickly. It's nice to see an early goal, isn't it?
Yeah, just to support Mark, I think that before the kickoff, Arteta was saying Holding had played many, many minutes over the last while, so he felt that he needed a bit of a rest. So that's just a kind of a pre-game kind of thing. I think the big difference as well today was coming out of the blocks fast, but actually making it count. In other words, the opportunities that arose to actually go and score the goals made a fundamental difference. And as you were saying, Chris, I think it has a lot to do with confidence. I mean, if we came out the same previously, and then the problem, of course, is when it doesn't become a goal and it's effort after effort after effort, you then start sitting back a little, or you become very wary of actually trying anything. And I think that's what's kind of caught us. But today it was stupendous. And I think that Aubameyang was certainly pretty fired up today. And I think that he absolutely made a difference. But I think what also made a difference for him today was having the triumvirate of creative players between Ødegaard and Smith Rowe and Saka, providing opportunities for him to run into space, and for the penalty as an example, which we'll discuss later. I think that made a huge difference. In fact, for me, on the one hand, I was wary, knowing how creative Leeds can be when they counterattack or attack per se, whether we were strong enough in the front parts lineup, the front lineup, as well as potentially in midfield to hold them back. But I think that I'm glad that we took that chance today, because I think that the creative players made the absolute difference, and that's why we were. I think for me, it was the most relaxing 45 minutes of a half that I've watched this season. The first half, and I enjoyed it immensely. And when we started off the second with the same kind of gusto, I was pretty ecstatic and looking forward to a lovely chat with you, fine, esteemed, and knowledgeable gentlemen.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, wasn't it? It was that, we haven't had too many games where we felt comfortable this season. But even before we scored, that first 10 minutes, I thought to myself, we're up for it today. This was a bit like what we saw from the Wolves game. The team looked on it, and the performance seemed to back that one up really. And a few shout outs here. So Barry on Facebook has said, he's happy for Oba and the team. Odegaard did well in his first start as well. So Merv, thoughts on Odegaard? How do you think he did in general? Let's talk about him for a little bit.
For his first start, I thought he did fine. What I liked was almost from the off, we set the tempo. I think on a previous chat a few weeks ago, I was complaining about a total lack of energy around the side. I'm sure we'll get onto a substitute about who displays that soon. But we were pressing from the off. We were setting the tempo. We were busy and making things happening, looking incisive. Danny was keeping things ticking over. And Odegaard, I felt at the beginning, because I was making notes, quick passes, always showing. A real Arsenal type of player, I wrote down. He seemed to start in that way. He could have fitted into a team from kind of earlier in the Emirates years, if you like, and that's the way I felt about him. And I think we're having him and Emil Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka moving around, and Leeds were struggling to pick them up where everybody was showing. Danny was popping up on the edge of the box. Granit Xhaka was looking incisive. It's kind of it was a strong beginning, and the difference for me was that we got the goals.
Yeah,
and maybe had we not scored the first goal when we did, and then got the penalty, maybe we would have begun to have the energy drain. But Odegaard, I think, played an important part in that. I think he's somebody that you might not notice as much, but he turns up in lots of different positions. He keeps it ticking over. He's got a good pedigree. Clearly, they were protecting him to a certain extent. I mean, taking him off earlier, I presume that means he hasn't had much game time this season, and they want to use him again on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that. It felt to me like it was a solid, tidy performance without being, absolutely inspirational from Odegaard. The way he moves the ball, the pockets of space that he was finding. There was a moment in the second half where he found himself in that sort of space which Smith-Rowe's been occupying, and he just knocked the ball out to Bellerin. Bellerin knocked it on. I mean, nothing came of the move in the end, but it was. I think you described that as a solid performance, really. But that first half, Mark, Aubameyang, it's good to have the clinical finisher back, isn't it? Because that first goal, couple of little step overs, and then he's gone to the keeper's near post. Maybe I thought the goalkeeper could have done a little bit more. But then let's talk penalties, because that was his second goal. I genuinely believe that we weren't allowed penalties. I thought that was a thing. So apparently, after Stuart Atwell had ruled out via VAR the first penalty turned down, which I find fascinating because the amount of contact there appears to be that is not allowed in the box these days. I cite Mo Salah last weekend as an example, Liverpool, Man City, and then you've got the David Luiz Wolves situation. There was contact. Now, I don't want any contact in the box to be a penalty, but the problem that we've got is that they've set a precedent. The VAR and the referees have set a precedent by having basically minimal contact resulting in a penalty. So I guess my question to you, Mark, is number one, Saka, the first penalty that was disallowed, thoughts on it? And then number two, I guess it was just clever really from Saka just to nick the ball away from the keeper, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably more dumb of the keeper. I mean, the keeper had the ball for ages and then fannied about, and Saka's closed him down and realised that the keeper's fannying about, and so really he's got into him and has nicked the ball off him, and then the keeper's made a desperate attempt to try and get something on it and takes him out penalty. So that one was a no-brainer. The first one I think is very. It's got to be contentious, because you look at that and you think Saka's moving at speed. He's going into he's in the box, and that guy's come across. Now the guy's got absolutely nothing on the ball, and he hasn't made a huge amount of contact with Saka, but his contact wasn't what you would call a genuine attempt at making a tackle. He's not sliding in trying to get his foot on the ball or anything like that. But he's made enough contact on Saka for it to be a foul. I think anywhere else on the pitch, and that would be a foul. So why why whoever it was, who was it? Andre Mariner at Stockley Park has considered that, that's a clear and obvious error. I don't know. And then why the referee, when seeing it from several angles in slow motion, still feels that he's made a mistake. I just don't get it. I mean, that to me, it was a foul, and a foul in the box is a penalty. You look at the prosecution of the offender after that, but the first thing is it's a penalty.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an odd decision. I guess we're all getting a bit used to these odd decisions. I mean, I don't know if you saw the United one earlier. I think our friend Pawson gave a pen and then reviewed it and overturned it. And I suppose at least you could say it's nice that they'll actually admit they've made a mistake, when you get an idiot like Mike Dean who just hasn't got the humility to admit he's made a mistake. So he doubles down on it and makes 2 in 2 games, and then says he's getting deference. But I mean, that I thought it was a foul anywhere on the pitch, so therefore it's a penalty.
Yeah, and if I can jump in, if you compare it to, and again, I still think that the Louise penalty a few weeks back was debatable anyway, and won't even get me started on why the hell the keeper didn't get a card. Not even, I mean, a yellow at minimum, but was he not depriving him of a goal scoring opportunity?
Do you know what, Lola? I'll let you talk in just a second. What I will jump in and say, and Mark will be rolling his eyes here, because as we've talked about our banter on Twitter, where he constantly thinks that I want everyone to get a yellow card. You can't I don't think you can be giving away yellow cards for everything now. And to me, it was just a bit silly. If that's the sort of foul, as Mark said, if that's the sort of foul that happens outside the box, it's just a foul and carry on. So in this instance, it's just a bit silly. We got the penalty. That was our reward, and that's it.
The rule was brought in like 4 or 5 seasons ago, the double indemnity rule. Yeah, which meant that refs then didn't just have to send every single player off for giving away a penalty. Yeah, so the rule says that if you feel that there's been a genuine attempt at a challenge for the ball, at a tackle, you can give the player a yellow card. Yeah, I agree with Olaf. I don't understand why he didn't get a yellow, but it's not a red under those rules, which is why there are lots of ones you see where players don't get a red card, because if you're making a genuine attempt, it's deemed an accidental foul. Not every foul in the box is a red card. So that's the difference. Why I think the keeper had done enough to try and make a genuine attempt for the ball. He's fouled Saka, so it's a penalty without that. I'd probably say, I'm not too sure why he doesn't get a yellow card for that. I mean, it wasn't the worst of challenges, but he should still get a yellow card. But it's no way is it a red. There are other things you need to consider to give someone a red card when they give away a penalty. But unfortunately, I think because of the whole Louise thing, we as Arsenal fans have kind of lost sight of that, and we don't want to think about it, because we just want to see everything on an even playing field, and it should be on an even playing field,
haven't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, and I knew, unfortunately, you had the Saka foul at Villa, where everyone wanted the guy to be given a red for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, which again was argued back and forth. And today about the goalkeeper, why doesn't he get a red? But I mean, I think we've got I think football, football's a very emotional game. We're all emotional about it, but sometimes you have to look at an incident and think about the rules. And not just consider the fact that the referees make the rules seem bizarre because there is no consistency. There is only inconsistency and incompetence, unfortunately, with our referees. This is the major problem, and what causes all this.
Yeah, well, let's move on. That's all right. Let's move on from that, because ultimately Arsenal scored 4 goals, and we probably could have had more, to be honest with you. And we'll get into the second half in a second, but I'll go back to Olaf. Walk me through that third goal, Olaf, because I thought that was the pick of the bunch, really. It was a really fantastic team goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but I'm going back to what I said earlier about the triumvirate up front, creating space, running and making space for others, and then the crisp passing to eventually get it out to Aubameyang to be able to come in. And again, he was very calm as well when he was there. He kind of took a couple of touches. He was he feinted left and right, and confused the defender, who was also, by the way, in line then with the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper wasn't quite sure which way Aubameyang was going to go, and then he did the quick to the left and slotted it in, as you saw, at the near post, which I think was the right position. And I think you may have said earlier, Chris, I think the goalkeeper was partly to blame. I think it should be a shot on goal that he should have stopped, but the interplay and the build-up was fast. And I think that's one of the things that Odegaard also brings, is the fact that he's very quick. He thinks fast and then distributes accordingly. And Saka, by the way, over the last, let's call it month, 2 months, he stepped up as well in his speed with which he's making decisions, taking on players, 1, even 2, even 3 sometimes. And I think that's also made a fundamental, huge difference in our attacking prowess in the final third.
Yeah,
and
I think it's bodies in the box as well. So we haven't been getting bodies in the box, but for that goal, there was 6. Well, it felt like there was 6. There's probably only 4 or 5 Arsenal players that are actually in the box. And so when you've got that many different points at which you have an opportunity to score, you're inevitably causing more issue for your opponent in trying to assess, okay, where are these players? Who are we going for? So it was a really good team goal. Maybe, yeah, there's an argument there that should the keeper get beaten at his near post, I totally take that, Olaf. But so we get that goal from Hex Bellerin. We're 2-0 up. It's 3-0 up, right on half time. Happy days. I went to go and start the cooking. Gave my dad a call. Had the TV on in the background as I was sorting myself out with my my beef Wellington tonight, and then Aubameyang nods another one. Really, really good goal. Merv, talk me through the part that we played in winning the ball back, actually, because it was Helder Costa that I think it was Ceballos, who I thought was very, very good, as you mentioned, wins the ball back. And then he plays it to Smith Rowe, a really good touch, and Aubameyang actually scoring with his header. So, what do you make of that goal at 4-0? Yeah, go on.
Was it a cross? Was it a shot? We won't know. It looked like a perfectly set up cross. He could have been aiming for the far post, but that's, again, I suppose, in keeping with the first half. That's the kind. It was almost a return to a type of football we haven't played for some time. It's energy. It's constantly looking to move forward. It's always having a man in space or prepared to make space. Having a striker running into the box, running at people. It's a style of play that in recent games, except the first half against Wolves was strong, but some recent games we've seen quite laboured. Too much passing, too many, and that happened. I mean, as soon as we kind of stopped doing that, Odegaard went off. It's kind of, and who came on. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we will.
It became very laboured. It became passing across and short passes to each other, kind of defensive midfield, as opposed to looking to go forward all the time. But no, I think that the fourth goal is what happens when a team is playing well. It's they're willing to take chances. They're willing to kind of probe for every opening. And Aubameyang clearly was a different player today. Once he got the first couple of goals, he was hungry. He was going for that. 2-3 weeks ago, I mean, he wasn't in the team. I know he was away with family issues, but he'd got into a kind of rut, I felt, where the kind of the poacher's finish for the fourth goal was the kind of thing he wasn't even showing for.
Yeah.
He was looking a bit disinterested, but suddenly he's got young. And again, Ceballos probably helps because he is a very quick, like with the third goal, the pass to Bellerin is kind of completely wrong-footed. Very quick passing, and he's got Smith Rowe and Odegaard, Saka, who are very quick-minded as well. So it's, whilst I don't want to suddenly repaint the future of Arsenal based on one game against Leeds, I think that is what we've been hoping to see. And the fourth goal is the prime example of maybe an Arsenal from earlier in the Emirates period or the latter Highbury period, where it's just win the ball back, just effortlessly move it through, and they find a way to get it in the back of the net.
Yeah, sometimes the most difficult thing I think in football is winning the ball back. But then if you're going to do it higher up on the pitch, sometimes the most difficult thing as a defending team is to reset yourself. If you win the ball back off of a team in your defensive third because they're attacking, then you've got space naturally, but you've actually also normally got bodies as well. And when you press higher, which I thought we did, and I thought we were very good in the first half, one of the things I noticed was, like the Southampton game, we pressed our fullbacks quite high. So when Meslier, the Leeds keeper, was clipping balls above Saka's head to play out to Alioski on their left-hand side, now right-hand side, Bellerin was pushed right up trying to win the ball back quickly. So that was a feature of this game, which I found really interesting, because that's where we got joy against Southampton, and that's why I think we were able to negate Leeds. I think there's also an element of I don't want to say fortune with Calvin Phillips being out, because essentially Leeds play everything through Calvin Phillips, and he's the deep lying midfielder that effectively, when they pick up the ball from Meslier, the keeper, when he's got that ball at his feet and he's looking at who he's going to pass the ball to, normally Calvin Phillips is there as an option as well. They just didn't have that today. And I think we were maybe a little bit fortunate that he was injured, but that feels like it's discrediting the actual performance itself from Arsenal, because up until that point, I think the performance was really, really good. And then, Mark, Arsenal be Arsenaling, and we concede a goal from... well, it's nothing really. I mean, it was a corner. I think probably David Luiz could have been a bit stronger in it, but I do not understand why on that corner we have got Bukayo Saka, who's like 5'9", 5'10", against like a 6'3" centre half, who's got the jump on him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's not even really that, to be honest. It's not about the jump. It's about being able to physically compete with a player. You know, they're supposed to put the players off their runs and make it difficult for them. And the guys, you know, your best headers are supposed to be the ones that protect the zone and challenge for the headers. Now, unfortunately, we have, you know, several players who are not really going to be able to do that. And you know, Saka, as much as I love him, and I think you know, he's got such a brilliant future in the game, that's not really what you want him doing. No. And he didn't. He didn't stay with the guy at all. And unfortunately, you know, I've got a lot of sympathy for David Luiz in that situation, because if you're a defender defending that zone and you've basically got a standing jump, you know, if that standing jump is against a tall, and I think the guy's is centre half for them, a tall centre half on the move, you're generally you're short odds to win that. And the guy thumps it in. So I think it's just, you know, I think we've probably let in some of the fewest goals from set pieces. I keep remembering seeing that stat flying around a bit, but that one today, that one today shows where you can really get caught out with zonal marking. You know, because if you haven't got your players who are doing the marking, doing their utmost to challenge and to put those players off, then you leave yourself open to things like that, and that was just what it was. You know, the thing is, you should just actually then shut that down after that goal. You know, there's no way you should be letting them get the second goal and giving themselves some hope. You know, that should be looked at as a consolation goal, not the start of some amazing comeback as Guy would have loved to have seen.
We've had the least goals scored against us in the Premier League in the second half this season. Only 8, apparently, from if I remember correctly what I heard earlier. And also, don't forget, we've had a whole week for a change to prepare for this particular game. And that in itself, I think, had a lot to do with why we came out so energetic in the first half and going into that in the second half. And then at about the 50-odd minute mark, the momentum completely changed, which is when they got their goal and then another one straight afterwards. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that then, Olaf. And specifically, let's talk about some of the substitutions. I'm going to let all of you guys have your say on this, because we scored 4 goals today. That's good. We were decisive. It was going forward. It looked good. We looked a lot better than pre-Christmas when it was an absolute horror show. We looked a lot better than the weekend, which I didn't think we were sorry, last weekend against Aston Villa, which I didn't think we were that great in the final third. We looked to be cruising. Leeds get what feels like a consolation goal, and then it felt to me like the momentum, like our momentum, was just completely sucked out of us by some of those substitutions. So what was let's get your take on, you can talk about all of the substitutions if you like, but specifically the first one. And it's almost a bit like Willian Claxon now. So I'm going to let you just have the floor for a minute and talk about what you thought about the way in which it changed the game.
Merv, you want to go first?
No, Olaf. Sorry, Olaf.
Okay, I'll keep it short because I think Merv can elaborate. I find it incredibly. I'm not one that disses players at the club at all. It's something that I don't do. They are who they are, and they're there, and it's and not everybody's as good as everyone, and it's just a kind of a reality. However, when somebody comes on and suddenly the energy level of the whole team drops, and suddenly we are starting to pass backwards as opposed to at worst looking sideways, but in all likelihood up until that point we were looking forwards in everything that we were doing, and then we lost our shape completely. And I tweeted that at the 4-2 level, the concentration dropped. And then we were losing our shape. Up until that point, we were holding the shape and doing it incredibly well and doing the pressing, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, etc. But I think that what just strike, and then again, when you look at the performance then from that point on with this particular individual, William, he contributed zero. And then in real terms for me, watching it, it was all of the life being sucked out. And then the more backward passing scenario, and actually the whole midfield as well as the defense taking steps back as a positioning starting point made it incredibly hard to watch and tenseful for me, to be honest. Yeah. So yes, I can't, and I don't think we're ever going to resolve this, by the way. And it's going to be the Claxon that we discuss, I would argue, nearly every week, and there'll be one day when it'll all be, oh wow, he had a good game, but for the life of me, I think he brings nothing to the team, and the worst part is that I think that he actually harms the team in the way that we want to play and the way that the players want to be engaging with each other, and I think that they feel it. I mean, I might be exaggerating here, but I look at it and it felt like the moment he came on, the whole mood in the squad suddenly changed, and that allowed Leeds then to get the upper hand to be more offensive and put us on the back foot. And if a substitution is doing that, you've got to query why are you bringing it on, or what the logic is, because it's doing harm, not good, which is the idea of having substitutions. My 5 cents.
Yeah, and a shout out on Facebook, Steve Brown. Why does Arteta keep putting Willian on the pitch? He's rubbish for the money. And then obviously Trevor as well on Facebook has said, so if everyone else can see Willian as a liability, why can't Arteta? Merv, Willian, liability, why can't Arteta see it? And also subs in general, and how that sucked a bit of the momentum out of us tonight. Merv, what do you reckon?
It's so difficult to articulate because we're 4-0 up, and it's just loving the short passing. There's energy, there's momentum. It's kind of this is what we love to see at Arsenal. It's back. Leeds score, and suddenly it's 65 minutes or so. There's no energy. We're making mistakes. We're giving the ball away. We're kind of passing it backwards. It looks like Leeds have shaken it up, but it's kind of, we've done it to ourselves. Okay, Leeds started making substitutions, but and I don't want to focus too much on it because there were still 10 players out there who had taken part in the first hour's great performance. But one person coming on does make a difference, and players know. They probably see him in training, and he looks great in training. But the players, particularly the more experienced ones, or even I suppose the younger ones, they've seen over the last few weeks when he comes off the bench, he doesn't do anything to help the team. He doesn't change the direction of travel of the game. And yeah, he was a great player. I was pleased when we signed him. I saw a lot of stuff he did for Chelsea in the last couple of seasons, particularly last season. I thought having an experienced head like that would help bring on players like Saka. It would be good for the squad. But my first thought was if the COVID was over last week and suddenly there were 60,000 of us in that stadium today, I don't know we'd have been booing, but the moment the number 11 went up, there'd have been audible groans around the ground. The atmosphere from 4-0 up would have gone flat the minute the energy started draining, and it would have become a bit, it would have become that kind of almost niggly kind of atmosphere you sometimes get. And it's I think that the reason this season is quite different in a lot of games is because there's no crowds there. Impacting referees and kind of to get behind a team, or to kind of like to almost like get on top of a team to lose confidence. But I almost feel that the complete change, the shift in our dynamism and our energy once he came on, and the team suddenly, and okay, mentally we'd conceded a goal, we conceded a second one, there was a bit of concern. Arteta, one of the commentators, picked up about kind of concern now on Mikel Arteta's face, and we're still 4-2 up. It's kind of why is he concerned?
Listen, Merv, I was there at St James's Park all those years ago.
Yes.
I saw it with my own two eyes. Although I will admit that, and as somebody said this, I think it was 7 a.m. Kickoff said this on Twitter, we went down to a Joey Barton, tomfoolery, and there were 2 penalties, one of which was clearly not a penalty and one's a wonder strike. But anyway, sorry, go on, Merv.
Yeah, no, you're right. I know it can happen, but I mean, none of the players out there today were there.
No.
So we've seen it as fans, and yes, had it been a full stadium, it would have got a bit edgy. You can feel the atmosphere, you can feel the tension. But I just feel that we know, we've seen it over the years. There are certain players we've had when a substitute is there and their number goes up on the board, there's like a groan around the ground.
Yeah,
and it changes the atmosphere. And I suspect, had there been a crowd there today, that's what it would have been like.
yeah.
And the same thing would have happened at Villa amongst the away fans last time, once his number went up. And it's a shame because I'm sure he's a good player. I'm sure in training, he scores worldies and he kind of links play well. But he never seems to be able to get into the groove. And, we've got young players who are building their careers, who've got a lot of energy, a lot of life about them. Since we've been on the air, I think Henry Winter's been waxing lyrical about Bukayo Saka on Twitter and stuff. And it's almost a drain on them. And I don't know why. I don't know why either.
Just to quickly interject, Mervyn, don't you think if it's a confidence thing, or if it's about giving him playing time, why not play him in the under-23s for a couple of games? As an example, play a full 90 minutes in the under-23s and then go, fine. See, now you're getting into the rhythm of all of this, as opposed to this staccato thing that you're doing. You're not good enough to start, but when you come on, you're not doing anything either. Please go and have 3-4 games in the under-23s. It's quite competitive. But at least go and put in the 90 minutes and then bring that positivity, because the same principles are being applied at the under-23 levels as it is in the first team, by the way, which is why the players can move about, as you know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I take your point there, Olaf, and Paul Hewson and Michael Hinton are both on Facebook had a word to say on this. So Michael said Arteta's trying to play Willian into form. It's either that or give up on him financially. I don't see the board will let him do that. Can't see why he's getting minutes. I think there's something in that. I think that if you're 4-0 up and you're cruising to a victory, it was almost as if it's like, well, come on now, Willian. If you can't if you can't light it up when all of the players are popping the ball around with joy because, you know, we're smashing this team, then you really are done. So I'm going to give you a chance. On the under-23s thing, it's just a totally different ball game. It's a totally different level. I mean, we saw Reece Nelson in the under-23s. I'm going to bring in Mark in a second because he watches the under-23s as well. Reece Nelson just completely smashed up the place. And when you see after his free kick, he almost turns away as if to be like, well, it's the under-23s, so, you know, whatever. Mark, talk to me. I mean, we're just coming towards the end of today's podcast, but talk to me about that from an under-23s perspective. Playing Willian into form, but then if you could also touch on some of the other subs as well, because personally, I thought that it gave Leeds the impetus, really. I mean, you're bringing on Willian and not playing Martinelli. Okay, everyone thinks that that's something that should have happened, Martinelli being played. El Neni coming on and then Holding coming on. It feels like a lot of the momentum shifted towards Leeds for that. But so there's two questions in there for you, Mark, just before we wrap up today. It's the under-23s question, playing Willian in under-23s, and then the second one, which is around the other subs away from Willian itself, so Holding and also El Neni.
Yeah, just to touch on the under-23s, I'm not sure playing in the under-23s would help him. It's not like the old days, Olaf, where you know, the reserves combination fixtures would have been a mixture of youth and older players that weren't getting a game and you were keeping them match sharp. It's very, very different. So I'm not convinced that would help him. I mean, I could say lots about Willian. I think Arteta has a huge problem with Willian because he's Arteta's player. You know, the whole thing with Ozil, Arteta could deal with because he was nothing to do with Arteta. Arteta actively sought to bring Willian to Arsenal. So he has to try and get something out of him. And he can't get something out of him by not playing him. On the flip side, he can't get something out of him by him keep coming on. And as you and Mervyn both said, by the fact that if there was a crowd at the Emirates, there would be untold tutting and empty latte cups being chucked about with Willian coming on. Yeah, so this is a long running saga. It's not going away. Arteta has a huge problem with Willian, and it's on him, and he's going to have to do something about it. Because on the other hand, you look at that and Pepe, and you both mentioned it as well. Footballers know football. Obviously, they play the game, but they know football. They know that Willian is bang out of form. He's completely out of form. So when you are a player and you want to get on that pitch as much as Martinelli does, as I'm sure Pepe does as well, but Martinelli definitely wants to get on that pitch, and you see Willian coming on in front of you, you are not going to be happy because you know that Willian is stinking the place out. So, you know, this, as I say, this is a massive problem for Arteta. You look at it you look at Twitter and everywhere else, and Arsenal fans are, one of the biggest things they're talking about is Willian. Why is he bringing Willian on? Why is Willian? What is Willian? You know, anyway, it's going to run because we gave the guy a 3-year contract on lots of money, and he's shit for us at the moment. So anyway, just covering Willian. And that was me not talking about Willian. Sorry, guys. The other two subs, El Neni, bringing El Neni on, I get that. You know, Ceballos, I thought Ceballos had a very good game. He linked up very well between Xhaka and the guys in front. And he puts in a lot of work. He makes a lot of tackles and gets himself involved. I like, you know, he did well today. When Ceballos plays like that, I like him. When other games, not so. And I know that people have a similar opinion. But bringing El Neni on is a sensible option. As limited as El Neni is, he's one of the only options we've got to bring on and try and solidify that midfield with him and Xhaka there. Yeah, I mean, that says a lot about what we need to do next season, to be honest. You know, solidifying our midfield is having El Neni and Xhaka. The Holding one, I really didn't get the Holding one. I just sort of thought like we'd shit the bed and let Leeds back into it to 4-2. And then I thought we'd rode that out and we were doing all right, you know, and we were looking like, you know, going out the other end and nicking nicking another goal rather than letting them get another one. And then Arteta brings Holding on, and it's not only is it a change of personnel, it's a change of tactic and 3 at the back and that. And I thought that was a bizarre one. And I think it's part of the fact that Arteta is still in his first. Well, no, he's not in his first year, is he? He's 15 months into being the guy that makes all the decisions. And I think he's still learning a lot of things about substitutions. And he tries things, and the fans, we're all kind of like a little bit shaking our heads, not just when it's about Willian, but the other subs he makes as well. I just found that a bit of an odd one. I know people will say, "Oh no, he's trying to solidify the defense." I'm like, no, you don't need to do that. If you want to bring, who was it he brought off for him? Was it Ødegaard?
Yeah.
If you want to bring Ødegaard off, I can't even remember who was on the bench. Maybe you do bring Martinelli or Pepe on and just feed the ball out to them as an out ball and let them try and get up the left wing and put some more pressure on them, rather than dropping even deeper with a back 5, because by that point you're really not expecting your fullbacks to be making 80 yards running that. So bizarre. I think it's one of the things Arteta's got a lot of support. You can still see that there's a lot of people that are not happy with him, but he's still got a lot of support. But his substitutions are an area of concern, I would say.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still learning. He still needs to evolve, and frankly, it feels to me like the rest of this season is a bit of a pass anyway, if I'm completely honest, because I don't think that we're going to get into the top 4 in a million years. I think even top 6 is probably a bit of a struggle, although it's not impossible, particularly given the next few games that we've got. I think just in terms of my sort of Jerry Springer-esque final word before we wrap up tonight, I think the Holding one was more because he saw Leeds trying to pump balls into the box, and so it was, let's play, as I said earlier, penalty box defender like Rob Holding. If Leeds are going to start whipping balls in, then he's just going to have that guy nodding the ball away again. But sometimes it can destable your momentum, and it can changing that sort of team dynamic. So you're now playing with a 3 at the back with Louise, Holding and Gabriel as well, can sometimes cause problems. It didn't. Ultimately, we got the win. That's the most important thing. 4-2. Arsenal pick up those points. We get ever closer towards that magic 40 points mark where we don't need to worry about relegation anymore. So that's something to be delighted about, isn't it, gentlemen? And hey, we've got Benfica on Thursday that we can look forward to. So once again, as always, it's been an absolute delight to hear your wonderful dulcet tones. Olef, thank you very much as always.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a good week, gentlemen. And I hope you had a great Valentine's Day.
Yes, enjoy your Valentine's Day. Mark, enjoy your goblet of wine with your wife. Whether or not she is having any of the wine, or you've just snaffled it yourself, I don't know. But there we go. Enjoy it.
Cheers, mate.
And Merv, good to see you as always.
And you too, Chris.
And we will see you next time on the Gunnerstown Pubcast. Have a good one.
Up the arse.